have and what you need, and then how to automate that so that the money is coming in regularly so that you don't have to do anything to live that lifestyle. That's what we try to set you up with. So we give you guys all the information that you need to effectively be capable of setting yourself up for what I would consider is a true retirement. Because if you quit one job that was hard and then you have to get another job that's less difficult for less money, you didn't really retire. You just changed jobs. If you're 70 years old and you're a door greeter at a Walmart because you need more money that your Social Security disability isn't paying for, you didn't retire. Okay. You're still working. You're still generating an income. You're just subsidizing your disability, right? So we want to make sure that you can truly quit your job, truly, truly quit your job. And that's why we give you all of that information. And then on Sundays, we have questions and comments from the fans that helps you guys be able to ask appropriately structured questions about appropriate topics that are off topic from the other topics that happen Monday through Saturday. So one half of the month is about your, or one half of the week is about your professional life. The other half is about your personal life because the decisions you make in your personal life cost you money. And that money is your ends up being your standard of living, or at least your expectations of the standard of living. And then if that is too high, you end up going to the job and trying to pressure your boss for raises, promotions, and extra overtime hours to give you the money to cover the cost of the decisions that you make. Then, if your boss doesn't give you that, your resentment towards that is going to lead you to either quitting that job or working less, reducing your work ethic, and then leading you into potentially getting fired. The alternative is that if you work for yourself, you raise prices on your customers in order to provide yourself with enough profit to cover the decisions you make in your personal life. Going from a stable income where you have a decent customer base to an unstable income where you don't have a decent customer base, that is a problem. So, while yes, you can put in less work to get a little bit more money, if you're making less money all the way around, but you're working less, the fact is you didn't achieve your objective. So, you want to be able to have consistency in currency. And that consistency in currency is what we talk about on a regular basis. As for today, we have to understand that the world has shifted on its axis. Late February 2026, what began as an operation of epic fury targeted by US and Israel strikes that killed Iran's supreme leader and other top officials has now spiraled into a full blown economic crisis. In retaliation, Iran has threatened all shipping in the Strait of Hormuz, the narrow artery that carries nearly a fifth of the world's supply. Shipping companies aren't waiting to see what happens next. The operation Operation Epic Oil Prices. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Now, fearing attacks and unable to get insurance, they've stopped sailing. Daily tanker traffic has plummeted from around 150 vessels a day to just a handful, a staggering drop. While it's not a total seal, some Iranian and Chinese flagships are still moving. The world's most critical energy choke point has been choked off. No pun intended. Now, this isn't some distant headline because you're feeling it at the gas pump right now with the prices starting to surge past any recent memory. You're seeing it on your grocery bill as shopping costs make everything more expensive. And you're definitely feeling that knot in your stomach as you look at your retirement account. Watching years of savings get hammered by a sea of red lines. Now, global crude oil prices have rocketed. Some analysts at major investment banks are now warning. that $150 per barrel isn't a wild guess anymore, but a very real possibility. I don't know about y'all, but that would have me a little bit upset. The uh, observation here is that this is going to be geopolitical inflation. It's an aggressive kind of inflation born from conflict and the unpredictable actions of world leaders. It feels like a tidal wave threatening to wash away everything that you've worked for. The first instinct for many is to sell everything, run to cash, gold and silver, and wait for the storm to pass. But what if that's the single worst thing that you could do? What if you could not only protect your wealth, but actually position your portfolio to benefit from all this chaos? And that's exactly what we're going to be breaking down right now today. And this isn't about fear, it's about having a clear, actionable plan. That's right, Michael. Michael's like, buy, buy, buy. That's right. This is the idea. Soon as I started seeing shares drop, I'm like, ooh, I got some real estate investment trusts that are showing 20%. I'm like, ooh, 20.25%. Ooh, I can fuck with that. No matter what, if I could find a loan at 10% or less, while I'm getting 20% or more dividends back on it, I could take that loan and I could plug that gap and I could make a substantially larger quantity of money where the principal would stay in the brokerage account and the interest would pay off the loan. That's fantastic. I don't, before I started doing this kind of stuff, I never would have fathomed that you could profit off of borrowing money from other people, but you really can. If the lender has a lower interest rate than your brokerage account, even after taxes, you can borrow from the lender for the sake of borrowing, put it into your brokerage account, leverage your brokerage account to pay off your loan, keep the difference as a profit, and pay off the loan with the brokerage account. You come out of pocket with nothing. If you manage to pull 50 grand from somewhere and that 50 grand is producing an eight or $10,000 interest scenario, and you put that 50 grand into a brokerage account that is paying you 20%, there's a 10% profit difference between you and the lender. Fact is that everybody's got to eat. The lender's getting paid, but so are you. So difference between the two is you walk away with 50 extra grand plus 10% interest. You paid them back their 50 grand plus interest. It's easy to borrow from them a second time. Michael says, OPM, other people's money. I'm gonna have to put that on a shirt. I'm gonna have to put that on either like a polo shirt or like a turtleneck shirt because I can't do a clothing line of just like regular baseball tees. I know that I got some in the membership right now. I got hoodies and stuff to that effect because of spread and other such um print on the go things. But a true clothing line, I should have stuff like that on a turtleneck like this that says OPM in the middle, and then around it it says other people's money, and have that as like a patch on the chest or on the shoulder or on the back. Because that's just fantastic thought process. We can fuck around with other people's money. Because what's your risk tolerance if you've got no money on the table, but you can potentially get profit? Your risk tolerance is a lot higher. But if your rent money is on the table and you got to pay your rent on the first and it's the ninth, you don't want to lose your rent money. So the goal is to leverage other people's money. Now, we're going to walk through 5 specific investment moves that you can make to shield your portfolio and handle this volatility and potentially come out of this crisis stronger than you went in. Because as it stands right now, Britain is allowing the United States to position themselves closer to Iran. Spain is not willing to allow the United States to use their airports to get closer to Iran. The United States is currently not willing to continue trading with Spain, which is going to negatively impact Spain, but it's also going to negatively impact the United States. With China and their contracts with the United States on the verge of stress because China is trying to protect the strait with Iran, and the United States is trying to choke out the strait. The more countries that gets involved over resources. This is a battle of resources now because they're ended up fighting over the oil in this area. This is a battle of resources. It turns into a World War III kind of thing. But they're blowing each other up right now. We're losing troops and everything to that effect. It went and my personal observation is that it went in this direction because Donald Trump couldn't be reckless with the tariffs. When the Supreme Court took away his ability to use money to argue with people, where money is power, and the more money you control, the more power you have. And being able to convince somebody else who profits from selling stuff on your land to not do things you don't want them to do or don't make a profit off of your land, you usually can convince them to cooperate. Soon as the Supreme Court put a stop to that, where Donald Trump couldn't arbitrarily hit them with a 200% tariff to stop them from doing certain things, that's when Donald Trump had to start deploying troops. But you have to understand that it started with tariffs that the Supreme Court started saying is unethical. And now we're dealing with missiles. Look at what you started, Supreme Court. Wasn't nobody blowing nobody up in 2025 when the tariffs was on China with 150%. Nobody was shooting at nobody. Well, look at what you did. Now the max tariff is 15% for 150 days, and we got hundreds of thousands of troops putting their lives on the line for the same political argument. It's just a different chess piece. We went from using the pawns of money to using the rooks and bishops of American people. It's more powerful, but we're losing more. We said a logo on the shirt at the breast line. Yeah, OBM. OPM. Yeah. Now, um, this information is going to be about turning your anxiety into action. So we're going to cover real assets, a specific sector benefiting from global tension, trimming the fat from your portfolio, hindering your core holdings, and a crucial step towards true global diversification. So, stick with me because understanding these 5 moves is the key to your financial resilience. He said, "Welcome to Vietnam." Oh, look, first things first, guys. We have to address the epicenter of this. The crisis is about energy. When a choke point like the Strait of Hormuz gets squeezed, the immediate result is a violent spike in energy prices. So the flow of a massive chunk of the world's oil and natural gases has been disrupted because of what's going on right now. And this is a classic supply shock. And in a supply shock, the companies that own the scarce resources hold all the cards. So, our first strategic move is to increase our portfolio's allocation to quality energy companies and other real assets. And this isn't the time for speculative, high debt exploration companies. It is time for quality. So, we're talking about the established integrated oil and gas companies. These are the majors, the household names that control everything from pulling crude out of the ground to selling it at the gas pump. Either with all the panic selling, it's time to buy. Yes, sir. As they you can buy as the stock drops, or you can wait a week or two as it sells and try to catch it at its lowest point. I always say you're not trying to chase the highest point and you're not trying to chase the lowest point. You want to be in the middle. So as it's going down before it reaches its lowest point, if you buy in somewhere in that area, and as it's going up before it reaches its highest point, you want to get somewhere in that area. If there's a little on the top that you didn't get, I mean, I would prefer to leave money on the table as opposed to it getting to where I was hoping it would be, and then it plummet before it gets there, and I haven't sold yet, and now I'm about to lose out because the value of my shares are gone, right? Now, if you're one of those individuals that's benefiting from buying holds on cash dividend stock, that would be fantastic because if you held and it dipped, you can just buy in substantially cheaper. But if you're selling stock for profit, or if you're selling stocks to prevent loss on growth, selling after it dips doesn't help at all. Selling while it's going down doesn't help at all, unless you're selling higher than what you bought in, just lower than its max when it was in your possession. So Shell, Chevron, Exxon buy gas masks, iodine for radiation, buy MREs, buy a generator. You need to prepare for retaliation now. And then, if you're really going to invest in the shares that's related to this stuff, you want to buy into the companies that make MREs. You want to buy into the companies that make gas masks. Because you're not just trying to buy the mining facility, you want to buy the picks and shovels that are being sold to the miners. Some oil fields might have to shut down because they don't have enough storage capacity. Well, see, that's the thing. If the storage starts becoming a problem, you're going to have high supply and low demand. When you have high supply and low demand, you're going to lower the price. Why do you think China's over there? China can buy it from Iran really cheap because China's not fearing getting blown the fuck. So China will go over and be like, hey, I'll take 150 billion barrels instead of 50 billion barrels so that I could take some of this space off of your hands and you could keep pumping oil, right? Iran will be like, sure, I can use this to buy resources so that I can build some defenses against the military offense. That's negotiation. But they're probably selling it at 25% of what they would be selling it to everybody else, or 5% in some situations, more than what they would be selling it to everyone else. However, the other countries in the area that would be benefiting off of the strait, if they're making contact with Iran, Iran's like, oh, I'm going to charge 200% because we're at war. Those individuals are like, fuck, I got to pay twice as much. My beer went from $5 to $40. It's expensive beer, but I'm still going to drink it. That's how it works out. That's how it works out. Change the flag and keep China out. Well, China is not fighting against the United States. China is trying to get oil from over there. So whoever conquers Iran gets to keep it. It's almost like Connect Four. The U.S. went and took Venezuela. Now China is over there trying to beat America to Iran. The two biggest powers in the world, right? America's supposed to be number one, China's supposed to be number two, but America's debt is higher than Iran's. But why are we so well positioned in this area? This is going to be because the profits are directly linked to the prices of oil. As crude oil surges past $100 a barrel, their cash flow is going to explode. So these companies that become cash generating machines are going to be the companies that you need to pay attention to. Now, that cash allows them to pay down a lot of debts, buy back a lot of stock, increasing the value of their shares, and most importantly, pay out and even increase their dividends per share. Now, in a market where growth is uncertain, a steady dividend is a powerful source of return and stability. So, beyond the major situation that we have, look at mainstream sectors. The companies owning the pipeline and storage tankers, they are the toll collectors of the energy world. Their business is less about the price of oil and more about the volume that flows through their system. So, which is why I told you they're going to try to keep pumping. And if they got to sell the oil less, they'll do it in order to keep pumping. With supply being rerouted and strategic reservoirs tapped, the infrastructure for moving and storing energy is going to be more critical than ever. The person housing the oil after it's pulled out of the ground can charge more money. How do you think they're going to do that? For most investors, this is going to be an easy way through an exchange trade fund scenario, ETFs. An ETF like the Energy Select Sector SPDR fund, XLE, gives you broad exposure to the biggest US energy companies in a single trade. So you can just get a bunch of shares of that if you want. But this isn't just about the oil, though, you know, because it's more than just stocks. Um, we also need to talk about commodities and gold. Geopolitical inflation attacks the value of paper money as governments respond to crises by printing more money. The cash in your bank account is devalued. Real assets are the antidote. They are tangible things with intrinsic value. That's one thing that a lot of people need to remember. Commodities like energy, metal, and agriculture are the raw ingredients of the global economy. As shipping costs rise and supply chains get messy, the price of these basic goods go up. A broad-based commodity ETF like the Invesco DP Commodity Index Trading Fund, DP DBC. Let me put that in the comment for y'all. Y'all gonna be looking at it like, God damn, this man coming out of woodwork with stock. Yeah, I was y'all. I know a lot of people came here thinking, oh, he gonna be talking shit about the war. Look, bro, I told y'all last week they're gonna be blowing each other to smithereens for at least a month or two. I would say by summer it'll resolve itself. So we're in March creeping into April. By June, this should be over. So, I was telling y'all Invesco, DBC, Commodity Index Tracking Fund, DBC, that's the one we was referring to. This one can be a strong hedge against the inflation that's happening right now with the resources in the pipeline. Then there's going to be some gold. For thousands of years, gold has been the ultimate safe haven asset, and it is what you own when you lose faith in everything else. It's stateless and it is nobody's liability. And it can be printed onto oblivion. You don't have to worry about it. During times of war and extreme stress, money flows to gold. So think of it as financial insurance. Again, ETFs like SBDR gold shares are a simple way to add gold to your portfolio. So I'm going to give you that one as well. And I know that y'all are thinking, I thought he was going to talk about stocks tomorrow. Yeah, I'm going to talk about stocks tomorrow. But I did tell y'all that when I cover a topic, I am not going to be coming from a political activist perspective. I'm going to be coming from a I can't believe that fucked up your money perspective. Because I told you that wherever there's conflict, there's a profit. Wherever there is misery, there is a profit. Wherever there are hard times, there is a profit. As a result, it is my responsibility to find the profit in all misery. Because in order for us to improve ourselves financially, instead of complaining about the way things are, it is my responsibility to talk about how to make things better, right? Now, this isn't about betting the farm on oil and gold alone. It's about a strategic tilt. We suggest a 5 to 10% shift of your existing stock allocations into the real asset bucket. For example, if your portfolio is 60% stock, you'd likely shave off 3 to 6% of your total portfolio and move it from other stocks into these energy and commodity ETFs. It's a meaningful but smart shift that adapts to the world's chaos, where without taking any crazy risks, you're going in on a decent improvement, right? Now, our second move might seem cynical, but from a purely financial view, it's a local response to the world that we're in now. The move is to add a targeted allocation to the defense and aerospace sector. The rationale here is going to be simple. Periods of intense conflict and global tension historically lead to more government spending on national security. It's a grim but predictable reality. The crisis in the Strait of Hormuz is just the sharp edge of a much bigger shift in global power. We're seeing a more assertive United States, a direct confrontation with Iran, and moves by China and Russia to challenge the current world order. For example, China has a deep strategic partnership with Iran and relied on the oil. The current situation is forcing China to pivot more towards Russia's supply, strengthening that alliance. At the same time, there's growing tension within alliances like NATO. So, for years, the United States has pushed European allies to increase their defense spending towards 2% of GDP targets. A crisis like this only makes those calls louder. Nations suddenly feel a need of new urgency to modernize their militaries, restock weapons, and invest in new technologies. This is going to lead to what happened with Spain and the United States. Spain did not want to increase money for the defense. The United States wants to pull funding. That was the other thing that they did. So it was a twofold scenario. And Donald Trump was using these penalties to show the rest of NATO that, hey, if y'all don't do what we say, then your economy will financially suffer. Again, utilizing money to control everything. Okay. So if the United States can force Spain to cooperate, and if Spain refuses to cooperate, then the United States cuts Spain off of its financial supply chain. Then Spain will suffer financially. Once Spain starts suffering financially under that hypothetical scenario, other countries will see that the United States will withdraw and that country won't make profits. You got to understand that is one of the biggest reasons why America is declared the richest country in the world, because that is the place that you can make the most money. It's not because its citizens are rich. 70% of us are poor, but 100% of this population spends the most money worldwide. The United States spends more money than anybody else. That's why we're $30 trillion in debt. Make sure that y'all be mashing those reaction buttons while we're getting through this. The situation that we're in now is going to create a powerful and long lasting tailwind for the companies that supply these governments. So, we're going to be talking about the big contractors that build fighter jets, naval ships, and missile systems, but also the smaller companies specializing in high tech, um, drone deployments, and everything to that effect. It is going to also include things like parts and satellites and cybersecurity. When you think about it, the threat of naval conflict boosts shipbuilding. The threat of aerial strikes will boost missile defense. It's all connected. Anybody who in America is a self preserver is going to think the concern of retaliation on American soil would encourage American people to acquire arms so that they have them to bear. If you've only got one or two, you might want to get more ammo for them. If you don't have an assault rifle, you might decide to go get one. It really depends. But preparation is key. In case of a home invasion, doesn't always happen from missile strikes. It could have a task force get off of a shipping container and attack from the port. Think about your American history when Louisiana was attacked from the ports, when Napoleon was running the Gulf of Mexico. Any place that's able to be ambushed, you have the higher probabilities of being ambushed on your way to Walmart picking up groceries. So it is effective to make sure that you got yourself covered. This isn't about short term headline trading, though. I got to be real with you. It is about multi year trends. Government contracts are going to be long term, well funded, outside of shutdowns, and aren't subject to the whims of consumer spending. They are driven by a national security priority, which are now front and center. So, how do you invest in this? Well, picking individual defense stocks is going to be tough. The easiest route for most people is going to be again through ETFs. Now, real quick, there were a couple of shows a few months ago that I covered cybersecurity. I covered military personnel, I covered law enforcement agencies, I covered private prisons. I gave you a bunch of stocks that you guys can buy into, bunch of ETFs that you guys can buy into to cover these exact things, individual companies. However, funds like iShare US Aerospace and Defense ETF, that is a all-purpose uh, mother of all shares kind of thing. It's like a package deal kind of thing. It's like getting that 42 flavor multi pack at Walmart. It's a bunch of companies. If you don't know what to do, grab one of these. Or the Invesco Aerospace and Defense ETF. You want to grab that one. Collective, related to aerospace. Giving your diversified exposure to the whole industry, you are less likely to be negatively impacted by the onslaught that's happening right now. Of course, you're still going to experience a devastation if you have friends and family in the service and they got called to duty and they were in the first wave last week when everything started going to shit and getting all over social media. A lot of y'all are going to be getting that one knock on the door, that one last call visit that is not always expected. Yeah, that part. All I can say is, did you get life insurance on those folks before they left? Because if you did, It'll go to the trust. Now, you're essentially going to be investing in the broad trend of increased global defense spending if you follow this route. This is a tactical move, not the core of your portfolio, because we recommend a smaller 3 to 5% shift from your existing stocks holdings. Um, it is enough to make a difference if the trend continues, but it is not so much that it would sink you if things suddenly calm down after a few months. Think of it as adding a specialized tool to your financial toolkit, a direct hedge against a more dangerous world. Now, our first two moves were about adding things to your portfolio. This is just as important, and it is about what you take away. It's about smart risk management. The move is to strategically trim your holdings in companies and regions that are most vulnerable to the shocks that we're experiencing right now, especially assets exposed to Europe and fragile supply chains. This isn't a call to panic sell, it is a call to take a hard, honest look at the risks that you're holding. The shutdown of a major trade artery like the Strait of Hormuz doesn't hit everyone equally. My portfolio isn't affected at all because I'm doing real estate investment trusts. Some economies are far more exposed, and as an investor, you need to know where that exposure is for you. So let's start with Europe. The European Union is an economic giant, but it has a huge Achilles heel. It depends on imported energy. So its primary dependence is imported energy, energy that comes into the country from another country. This crisis means higher energy costs for European industries and their consumers, acting like a tax on their entire economy. A German chemical plant or French manufacturer suddenly faces crippling high costs, making their products less competitive. Because there's two things that you have to deal with here. You have to deal with extra protection for your products, but then you also have to deal with the higher costs for your employees to travel during war times. This squeezes profits and can slow down their entire economy. On top of that, Europe's biggest companies, from automakers to luxury brands, rely on complex, just in time global supply chains. Those are the very supply chains now in chaos. Shipping costs are through the roof now. Delays are piling up. A critical part from Asia might get stuck in a ship rerouted around Africa, and that is going to add weeks and massive costs to the distribution of that product. You can't sell a car if you're missing a part that is stuck at sea. Huge problem. Then there is the political friction, the underlying tension within NATO over who pays for defense is very real. An escalation of trade disputes between the United States and European Union would put many European companies right in the line of fire. Special shout out to Battle Zone. Good to see you, buddy. Make sure that y'all like and subscribe as y'all dive in and mash those reaction buttons to see how many people we can get in here tonight. Beyond Europe, you need to look at any company that is extremely sensitive to global shipping and heavily relies on Chinese manufacturing. Think of big retailers that need a a constant flow of cheap goods from Asia, or a tech company whose entire production is centered in one region. China's role here is going to be complicated, and you have to pay attention to that. It's a partner of Iran's, but is also the world's biggest oil importer. So the blockade hurts China also. While there are reports it's trying to negotiate safer passage for its tankers, there's no guarantee. This uncertainty puts any company deeply tied to Chinese stability at higher risk. The action here is to go through your portfolio, especially your international stocks, and ask some of the tough questions. How much of this company's business is in Europe? How dependent is this company on a smooth global supply chain? The move is a strategic trim. We've suggested reducing your exposure to these vulnerable areas by 5 or 10% of your stock allocation. So you can sell off a portion of your European stock funds or specific highly exposed companies. The cash you raise from this trim is what you can use to fund the moves to energy, defense, and other such areas that we just talked about 40 minutes into the show. This is a proactive rebalancing. Sell from one with the position of weakness so that you can buy into another with a position of strength. Now, we are about to dive into our final two moves, which are arguably the most important for building a solid long term portfolio. But before we do, if you're finding this breakdown valuable, take a second, help us out. If you haven't done so already, hit the subscription button, click the like button, hit that notification button. One small click for you, one giant click for me kind. It also makes a huge difference for the channel and lets us keep creating content like this every week. Our mission is to give you guys the tools to build your wealth and your confidence, no matter what the headlines are saying. So I really appreciate your efforts with that. Let's get moving to these numbers. Our first three moves were tactical tilts. To respond to the crisis, this fourth move is about the heart of your portfolio. It is about making sure that your foundation is built on rock, not sand. The move is to harden your core holdings by focusing on two things: quality in your stocks and short durations in your bonds. That's right. When the market is calm and interest rates are low, investors get sloppy. Cheap money makes almost every company look good, from speculative tech stocks with no profits to meme stocks. But this crisis is a dramatic changing of the tide. The water level is dropping fast, and we are about to see who is able to swim naked versus who is not able to float at all. In this environment, quality matters. It is the single most important factor of stocks. What makes a quality company? First thing first, pricing power. This is a company's ability to raise prices to cover its own rising costs, like energy and shipping, without losing the customers. It is the ultimate defense against inflation. Think of a brand, any brand that you like. Now, imagine that brand with loyal followings, a unique product, or a monopoly on its market. Can a beloved soda company raise its price by 8%? Of course it can. Can a genetic company competing with a dozen others do the same thing? Probably not. Companies with pricing power protect their profits. Those without watch the profits disappear. Second thing, a quality company has a fortress balance sheet, which means low debt. Companies that loaded up on cheap debt are now in a tough spot. When they need to refinance, it will be at much higher interest rates, which eats directly into the profits. A company with lots of cash and very little debt is going to be its own boss. It can survive a downturn by weaker competitors and keep investing in its own growth. So, like a parasite, survive the downturn, feed off of the competitors, and then rapidly explodes its own growth. You often find these kinds of companies in sectors like consumer staples, things with people buying it no matter what, healthcare, and some dominant tech firms. The goal is to shift the core of your stock portfolio away from speculative nonprofit companies to some of these. These are going to be the resilient, cash rich market leaders. Now, for the other half of your portfolio, the bonds. For a decade, the 60/40 stock bond portfolio was gospel. But the 40 part has become dangerous if you don't understand one key concept: duration. Think of duration like a seesaw. The length of the bond's maturity is the length of the board. The further you are from the center, the more you move up and down when your interest rates change. A long duration bond, like a 10-year or 30-year treasury, is like sitting on a very end of the seesaw. In today's inflationary environment, central banks have to keep interest rates higher for longer. If rates stay high or go even higher, the price of those long term bonds will fall hard. The solution is to shorten the duration of your bond holdings. You want to get off the end of the seesaw and you want to move closer to the middle. This means selling the long term bond funds and moving into short duration bonds. This means that the maturity rate's going to happen a lot faster. You're going to get access to your money a lot quicker without having to worry about the penalties. Typically, these are going to be those maturities of 1 to 5 years. They're far less sensitive to rate changes and provide stability, liquidity, and a decent yield. At this point, around 4%. The other side, a powerful tool that we can use is Treasury Inflation Protected Securities, or TIPS. The value of a TIPS bond is explicitly designed to go up with inflation, protecting your purchasing power. If inflation runs hot, the value of TIPS goes up with it. So the action for your core portfolio is twofold. On the stock side, do a quality audit, sell the speculative junk, and focus on companies with pricing power and strong balance sheets. On the bond side, do a duration audit, cut your exposure to the long-term bonds and shift into short duration bonds and tips. This makes the core of your portfolio vastly more resilient for the short term ahead. And one final move that tackles a big blind spot this crisis has exposed in many investors' portfolios: a lack of true geographic diversification. For years, global investing meant just a mix of US, European, and maybe some Chinese stocks. But when the US, Europe, and China are all caught up in some geopolitical storm, that's not diversification, that's concentration. The fifth move is to look beyond these obvious tangled economies and into regions that could be relatively winners if the global reshuffling starts occurring. The world isn't a single entity. A crisis that hurts energy importing nations in Europe can actually create opportunities for energy exporting nations or countries that benefit from shifting supply chains. Your job is to think like a global strategist and put capital in places with the best advantage for the future. So, where are these places? We're looking for countries with three key traits. One, they are somewhat insulted, or sorry, insulated. They're insulated from the main conflict. That's what you're looking for. Somebody insulated. Two, they have positive domestic trends like growing populations. And three, they stand to benefit from friend shoring as companies move their manufacturing away from geopolitical hotspots. A few regions that stand out. Let's start with Mexico. The trend of near shoring, moving manufacturing closer to home, is exploding. As companies reduce their reliance on Asia, Mexico is the most logical destination. It's going to share a massive border with the United States and is part of the USMCA free trade agreement and has competitive labor costs. Um, what you got going on, Stephen? He said, if they are insulated and insulated, it is a bonus. Yes, if you're looking at a country that are um, n- insulated, kind of protected, kind of shielded off away from all of the chaos, then they are going to be a bonus because they're going to be able to turn profits without having to worry about missiles accidentally hitting their factories. They're not going to have to worry about casualties. They're not going to have to worry about their ships being blown up if they don't even need ships to transport. Because if you're in America and you're looking for a company that profits off of America, you're looking for a company that can do that without having to get a boat blown up. First place to think about Mexico. Off the top of my head, probably Canada. You know what I mean? You got to think about stuff like this. Now, um, the current crisis only strengthens Mexican's position, and an ETF like iShare MSCI Mexico ETF is a direct play on this particular powerful theme. So if you're looking for some ETFs, I was not expecting to have this many stocks in tonight's show. But when I started putting all of this data together, I was like, whoa, our money goes a lot further than we thought. Next, you want to look at Southeast Asia. Countries like Vietnam and Indonesia are also benefiting from China plus one and and the strategy that they're working on, where companies diversify their manufacturing outside of China. These nations have young, growing populations and are hungry for foreign investments. And then there's India. We've already covered India before, after America got India under control with over 1.4 billion people and uh, a booming middle class. India is one of the most compelling long term growth stories on the planet. Its economy is largely driven by domestic demand, making it more resilient to global trade shocks. While it does import energy, and is hit by high oil prices, its internal momentum provides a strong buffer. An ETF like iShares MSCI India ETF offers an easy way to get some exposure. And these are ways where you can do like broad spectrum investing and be able to find yourself turning a decent 5 to 10% profit. And it's also important, you need to look at your US holdings through geographic lenses. A US multinational that gets half its revenue from Europe and Asia is facing a major headwind. A strong US dollar, which is common in a crisis, also hurts these companies by making their foreign profits worth less when converted back to US dollars. In contrast, domestically, the domestic focused US small and mid cap companies are far more insulated. A regional bank or a retailer whose sales are also all within the United States isn't directly affected by chaos in the Strait of Hormuz. Balancing your US exposure between big multi international scenarios and these more domestic firms adds another valuable layer of diversification. Now, the move here is to reallocate a portion of your international holdings instead of a generic international fund heavily weighted to Europe. Maybe consider adding targeted ETFs from countries like Mexico, India, or a broader Southeast Asia fund. It's about being smarter with your geopolitical exposure, recognizing that the investment map for the next decade will look very different from the last. We have a large quantity of changes coming. We have a large quantity of improvements to make. One of the things we have to pay attention to is that every time something happens on the other side of the country, we have to ask ourselves, how does that directly impact us? If it's not, don't worry about it. But if it's impacting you in some kind of way, you have to plan, not just sell all of your sales or sell all of your retirement or whatever. You want to plan how this impacts you and then navigate strategically in a way where you benefit from the change. So let's bring it all back together. Okay. The world feels chaotic right now, and geopolitical inflation is a real threat to your money. But sitting in cash isn't a strategy. Just taking all your money out of the stocks and putting it in a vault in your house isn't a strategy. Okay. It's giving up. The path to financial resilience is through deliberate, thoughtful actions. We've just walked through a 5 point plan to do exactly that. First, you're going to go to overweight quality energy, and you're going to go to real assets like gold. Switching to these is going to be your direct hedge against the supply chain shock, and it's going to be impacted by the driving increase of the chaos, the crisis that is going to continue, like I said, probably till about June, because they just got started. Second, add a tactical exposure to aerospace and defense, because the longer they're fighting, the more money they're going to spend on the fight. This is going to be your hedge against more dangerous world and increased security spending. Third, practice disciplined risk management by trimming your exposure to vulnerable regions like energy dependent Europe and companies with fragile supply chains. Fourth thing you want to do is harden the core of your portfolio, shift your stocks towards high quality companies and your bonds towards short durations and inflation protected securities. Fifth thing you want to do is embrace the truth. You want to pay attention to the geographic diversifications. Move beyond the tangible major economic discussions. Allocate capital to regions like Mexico and India, which are poised to be the structural winners of this global realignment. No single move is going to be a magic bullet, but together, a bunch of little things being done here and there, they can create a framework that makes your portfolio more resilient and opportunistic. And this is how you shift from being a victim of the headlines to an investor with a plan. You can't control what the world leaders do, but you can absolutely control how your portfolio is positioned and how you can profit off of the move. Your goal is not to bet against the player. Your goal is to bet on the move. It doesn't matter who wins and loses as long as you profit off of each position being played. You have the power to take action and navigate this storm with confidence. So, I want to hear from you guys. What is your single biggest concern about investing in 2026? Make sure that you take the opportunity to leave comments into the comment section. And if you haven't already subscribed to the notifications, do so and like the channel. Don't want you guys to miss out what we're going to be talking about tomorrow because we've got a lot of stuff coming up where we're going to be discussing. I haven't even put up the show yet. We're supposed to be discussing about how to establish our offshore bank accounts the easiest ways possible. And we're talking about legal established bank accounts where you can create bank accounts and relocate capital overseas. We're going to be discussing the benefits of having an offshore bank account in a country that you plan on going to, which makes it easier for you to settle down over there. We're going to be covering a lot of different things that is going to make international investing make more sense to you. And when you're piggybacking international investing with international travel, if you're going where your money is or sending your money to where you want to be, you find yourself, if y'all ever played GTA, after you beat the game, you're traveling the map, collecting money. That should be a goal for the end of your life. That should be part of your 20-year plan. I'm going to Peru because I've got money there. Going to Switzerland because I've got money there. You want to spend your last days traveling the world like Raymond Reddington, dismantling your empire, right? Or at least benefiting from it. But in order for you to get that far, you have to remember to stay prepared, stay disciplined, and do not trade with panic. Now, I really appreciate you guys investing your time with me today, and I hope that you found this framework very valuable for you. Um, with all of the chaos that we've got going on with the ongoing bombings that we have, we don't really have a lot of shifts and changes. We're not hearing any information about the DHS bill right now that hasn't been passed yet. And we're still looking at TSA agents still not getting paid. Last time it ran over 6 months, I mean, 6 weeks. It's likely to run 6 weeks again. As soon as I find out that the TSA agents are starting to get paid, I'll tell you what bills were passed. We're expecting to see by the time this is over body cameras on our ICE agents and more appropriate behavior because two of the things that they wanted to do was unmask the ICE agents and put body cameras on them so that they have first person accountability of the officer involved. And you also have third person accountability because any witness of a action from a government agent is documented by I got their face on camera, right? So there's no more vigilante behavior from ICE agents. Now, I am also going to tell you guys that while we're still like following the trends, I got to tell y'all, take y'all ass inside. If they're not here for you and they're not here for somebody that you know, stay your ass inside. And the reason why I'm going to tell you that is because as much as We should value somebody coming to our rescue. We who don't break laws, we who don't commit crimes, would prefer that we are rescued from somebody who is not upholding the law. Regardless of how we look at things, whatever's happening with the ICE agents on the block right now is out there grabbing people who have already broken laws. It's almost like trying to justify stopping a bounty hunter from collecting your cousin because that's your cousin. If he got our warrant out for his arrest, my dog, you got to get out of his way. Let the bounty hunter do his job. That's what we got going on with the ICE agents. And as it stands right now today, any city in any state, since they're not just getting rid of Mexicans, they're getting rid of sovereign nation individuals that have relinquished their citizenship. So you can look like white American and do not have a driver's license, an authentic driver's license, and do not have a authentic passport. And because you're one of those sovereign nation individuals, you can get thrown out of this country. So we're in a position where you have to remember that your right to refuse being ID'd from a local police officer is not your right to refuse to be ID'd by an ICE agent. You might not want to give them your driver's license because that's not their concern. They don't need to know where you live. You might just want to hand them your passport card because you want them to know that you are a US citizen. And that's it. Because that is the full totality of their job. Their job is to make sure that the person that they're looking at is a US citizen. Now, if you can present your passport to them, you don't have to do anything else. You don't necessarily have to put it in their hands either. I am a US citizen and this is my passport book, or I am a US citizen, this is my passport card. You don't have to give it to them. In fact, you can have your passport card, like I said before, you can have a decent sized chain around your neck, and you can have a passport card on a clear business ID badge card thing where you got a US passport card hanging from your chest. So when they come fucking with you, it's like, hey, I got a passport right here, bro. Don't fuck with me. I got a passport right here. I'm an American citizen. And that's it. That's the end of the conversation. Your job is to get non-Americans, and you can clearly see I'm an American. That's it. That I am not part of your job. That's it. And as soon as you make that clear, not only am I not in your way, I am also not your target because the passport is right here on my chest. So they can carry on about their day. That's only going to be effective when they have a body camera. So, we have to see how things play out. Likewise, what else we have going on right now is TikTok starting to pick up speed in the United States with the US marketing. And it is actually looking like it's impacting the US traffic on YouTube as well. So that algorithm shift probably better for us. We'll keep track of it. As soon as I get my hands on a stream key, we'll see what happens next. We'll see the massive growth on the platform. Um, One thing I got to remind you guys: tax season is almost up. April 15th, we're supposed to have everything done that we're gonna do. If we don't do anything, then we're gonna have a problem. Have your passport on a chain link. Flavor Flav does his clock. Yes, I'm really serious about that because if you have it on one of those biker chains clipped into your wallet kind of thing, you have to reach for it. And if you reach for an object with these trigger happy people, you can get gunned down. So if you have it on a thick chain, they can't snatch it off your neck. And if you have it in a pendant where your ID is in a pendant on your chest, they can see your passport on your chest, and all you got to do is hands up and hit your chest and hands up. You can see my hands the whole time. Passport's right here. You can't shoot me. Passport's right here. I'm not going nowhere. You're supposed to be looking for somebody without a passport. My passport's right here. You can go on about your day. Right? That's it. That's it. Because no matter what happens after that, you can't go even before a federal judge and say that you were obstructing because I was on the sidewalk. I did not even he came to me and took my passport off my chest, snatched my passport off my chest and took me to jail. Soon as you say that, it's like, well, whoa, your job as an ICE agent is to go get non-Americans. You're snatching U.S. passports off the neck of U.S. citizens. That does not justify any actions that they do after that, and you can potentially get that scenario expunged. But if you refuse to ID yourself and you refuse to cooperate, you are interfering with their ability to sweep the country and make sure that everyone here is supposed to be here. And that is the biggest problem that we're going to have with the current operation. Their responsibility is to sweep the country. Yeah, it's going to start off with targeting. They're going to go after everybody that looks Mexican. They're probably going to go after a lot of black people too, but they're going to sweep the country. So eventually, everybody is going to get carded if you have it. And that's why I tell you, because you're not driving, they're not looking at your driver's license. So don't get my address. Get a passport card so that they're not running off with your passport book. The passport card costs an extra $30. Get you a passport card, leave your passport book at home, put your passport card in a pendant on your chest, and when you out there fucking with ICE or not fucking with them, but they're fucking with you got your passport on your chest. That's it. Because even if you got pulled over by an ICE agent, that is not a traffic stop. They're not a police officer. They're supposed to be deporting non-Americans. So they can't ask you for your driver's license because they're not doing a routine traffic stop. They're doing a citizenship check. My passport's right here. I can show it to you, but I don't have to give it to you. I can show it to you. Matter of fact, I can read the numbers off of the passport for you so that you can put it into your system so that you can verify that I'm a US citizen. That's it. That's all I got to do is identify myself. And one of the things that we learned growing up in the hood is if you memorize your driver's license number, you don't got to give it to them. You can just tell them what it is. If I recite my driver's license number to them, they have the responsibility to write it down and then type it into their system and go make sure that that's me. That's it. As long as you provided them with enough information to ID you. So, first, last name, driver's license number, that's it. I don't got to give you my social security number, my date of birth. I don't have to give you my address. I don't have to give you my phone number because your first, last name, and your ID number, that will identify you in their computer. That's it. That's it. I have a very common name. That's fine. There's only one license with my number on it. Once they match that license to that name, that's it. They're going to get a photo. That photo's going to match my face. That's it. Glasses and all. That's it. Once they've done that, hey, he's clean. So this is how you keep yourself out of trouble. So you don't feel like reaching into your wallet to pull out that ID. They're going to say, give me your wallet. I don't have to give you nothing. But what I'll do is I'll tell you what's on the wallet. I'll tell you what's on the ID. That's it. I'll meet you halfway. I'll tell you what's on the ID. Write it everything down. Go run it through the system. Don't worry, I'll wait. But I'm not getting nothing out of my pocket because you're not going to put 10 holes in me, right? As much as they want to argue with that in a legal court of law, if you gave them the information that they would have otherwise gotten off of the ID, they don't need the ID, right? Typically, you don't answer any questions. You hand them the ID. They take the ID back to the car because they don't write anything down on their scratch pad. And then they type the information into their computer. They verify who you are. And then they bring you back your ID. Legally, you don't have to hand them the ID. It's just common practice. You can show them that the ID exists. And then if you need to read the information off the ID for them, that's the best that you're going to do. But I'm not letting you take it with you because I don't have to let you take it with you. You just got to know your rights. Now, you be too disrespectful out there, you're not going to make it till tomorrow. Mom always said you got to survive in the streets to take them to court. So the decision that you make is to de escalate the situation and end it. That's what you have to do. If they got to violate a few of your rights, that's fine. But you can stand on a few of the ones that make no damn sense. So that's all I got for you guys for tonight. It was a short show today because I mean we don't have a lot of politics going on right now that's impacting our money, but this is in fact going to negatively impact our money in a lot of different ways. And another way that we're going to be impacted is going to be the goods and services that we're not going to receive if Spain gets embargoed. It hasn't happened yet. Donald Trump threatened to shut down all trades with Spain. He hasn't actually done it yet. So I don't have a whole long show about, ooh, what if Donald Trump follows through with his. I'm not that guy. I'm not a hypothetical, what if somebody takes action on their threat. I'm not that guy. I'm the guy that says, well, look, right now we know what's going on with our money. When Donald Trump shuts down the government, that's when we're gonna start talking about how shit, it's not nothing that you used to get from Spain is being shipped over here no more, man. We're gonna be missing out on this. We're gonna be missing out on that. You're gonna see a clearance sale on this. You're gonna see prices going up on that. That's when we're gonna talk about it when he actually takes action on it, because you never know. By the end of tonight's show, by the end of this week, Spain might just miraculously have a change of heart, or some of Spain's leaders might just accidentally lose a heart. And because their heart was detached from their body, now they're starting to have a change of heart. Because just like they went and kidnapped that guy from Venezuela, small excursions, temporary intrusion allowed. So all it takes is for a bunch of people in dark outfits with masks over their faces just miraculously popping up in the middle of nowhere, taking action in an isolated location, and leaving no witnesses behind could change the minds of nations. What we call those Marines. The U.S. got a lot of them. So um, it's gonna be a very long haul for us, and we're gonna be covering a lot of things along the way. So make sure that you guys come back tomorrow, Wednesday, and then the rest of the week, because we're gonna be giving you guys updates at the top of the hour, and we're also gonna be providing you guys with more information throughout the year about all of the ways that the changes in the world and the changes in the economy is benefiting you, and some of the ways that it's not. So with that being said, first thing we're going to say is, ladies, as long as the situation doesn't make sense, I'm going to keep asking you, ladies, to make it make sense. So, ladies, please make it make sense. Then, fellas, I give y'all this information to help y'all become higher value men. You have to find the things in your life that matter to you, that are inside of your control, things that you like, things that you don't like, make changes. As you make those changes, you find your life getting better. Then you want to navigate around the things that are outside of your control. Ladies, while this is a male driven podcast from the male's perspective, you too can make yourselves higher value women. All it requires for you to do is to find your 20-year goal, figure out what it takes to get there, reverse engineer it down to step one, and start proactively taking steps to meet your 20-year plan. Keep your eyes and ears open. You might find yourself a positive suitor that could potentially impact in a positive way your ability to achieve your goals. When doing so, y'all can partner together and reach those goals faster. I tell you guys on a regular basis how two individuals can come together, 40,000 each, and find themselves a millionaire in 10 years, 2 million, 1.5 million in 20 years. All it takes is for y'all to be responsible together. So, with that being said, I want to thank you guys for coming to this and that. I'm your host, Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. And I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Chase validation, now I validate myself. That's my personal command. I'm not mounted on higher ground where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never yield.